What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Tomatolito Boxing Show. And the fight that we were all waiting for has come and gone. And that was the big rematch between Alexander Usyk and Tyson Fury for all the glory, all the belts, with the exception of one, the IBF, which Usyk relinquished. And Daniel Dubois is now the rightful owner of that title after he defeated Anthony Joshua just a few months back. Big rematch, huge mega showdown that these two had back in May, and now they got to run it back. And many were favoring Tyson Fury. I'm really curious, before we get into this, I'm really curious, and you're probably not going to agree with me, which is okay, because that's the whole purpose of the show. It's for the fans, from a fan, and what we love to do is cover the sport of boxing and discuss the sport of boxing, the different points of views and so forth. I love to read your comments. I love to engage with you guys on the comments, and so I definitely want to hear how you guys had it. I'm gonna go ahead and give you as I scored it, and then we'll review the CompuBox and so forth. In the end, hopefully this is not a spoiler. You guys should know already what took place this past weekend. Alexander Usyk was awarded the victory by 4 rounds, 116, 112, across the board. And now Riyadh ended up introducing an AI, a fourth judge, AI scoring the fight. And according to the AI, it was an even bigger margin that the AI judge scored a fight for Usyk. Just basically a one-sided affair. This is one of those cases where I feel like the eye doesn't lie. It's one of those fights, in my opinion, you're watching something and you know what you're seeing, and they're saying otherwise, and the results proved otherwise, or the end result in that sense. I personally saw Tyson Fury win, and I'm going to go ahead and get into that. These two fighters, remember, Tyson Fury stepping into this big rematch with the only loss of his career at the hands of the man standing across the ring from him, Alexander Usyk. Tyson Fury stepped into the ring with a 34-1-1 record, whereas Alexander Usyk, unblemished, perfect, 22-0, has unified previously the cruiserweight division prior to migrating north, and unified the heavyweight division, and has to absolutely go down as one of the absolute greatest heavyweights to do it. He's definitely at the back end of his career. I don't know how many more fights he's going to have, but the trilogy is definitely out the window now. As a payday, may be attractive, but the trilogy is definitely out the window. And we'll get into that. Great records by both. We know that Alexander Usyk got the decision in the first fight, nearly stopped Tyson Fury in the 9th round. Many felt that the fight should have been stopped, that the referee bailed Tyson Fury out. But the story of that first fight was the left hand. And here we go. 1 was the left hand. 2, the gas tank of Tyson Fury. 3, the antics and how serious Tyson Fury was going to take this fight. And what shape these two were going to show up in. Tyson Fury shows up heavier in this fight, weighing in at 281, if I remember correctly. And so that took a lot of conversation leading into yesterday's fight. Now, something that had to do maybe with that weight was the fact that they both weighed in, because it's a little bit colder weather, both of them weighed in fully clothed. So we get into the fight, and we see, as the opening bell rings, we see a more driven, a more focused Tyson Fury, taking the action, engaging, reacting quickly, countering quickly to everything that Alexander Usyk was bringing to the table. We know that Alexander Usyk likes to overwhelm his opponents by utilizing a lot of head movement, a lot of flinching, and keeping his opponents on edge, not knowing whether he's going to throw or not. And that tends to tire out his opponents mentally and physically, because they're constantly reacting, they're constantly having to move, they're constantly having to be on the defensive, and they can't really implement their game plan. That's something that ended up playing to his favor like it has the majority of his career in the first fight with Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury ended up gassing out because of that. Now, we see a heavier Tyson Fury step into the ring this past Saturday night, but a more active, a more reactive, and a more accurate, more efficient Tyson Fury. No games, no BS, no trying to antagonize the crowd, no playing around in the ring. This was a focused, zeroed in Tyson Fury that we witnessed. And it was a great fight. I'm going to go ahead and show you, or at least read to you, the scorecard as I had it. I ended up scoring this in the end, a 115-113 victory, 2-round decision victory for Tyson Fury. And this is the rounds as I had them. I had round 1, round 2, and round 3 for Tyson. Round 5 for Tyson. That was a huge round for me, in my opinion. Round 9, round 10, and round 12 for Tyson Fury. For Usyk, I gave him round 4, round 6, round 7, round 8, 3 rounds in a row, round 11. You saw some judges score a draw in the first round. You never see that. That's one of the things that I was disputing, that you rarely see a draw. You usually give this round when it's, and you know that the first round, the opening round, sometimes up to 2 rounds, they're feel-out rounds. They're rounds where they're running around, they're feeling out, trying to gauge the opponent, and most of the judges automatically award it to the favorite fighter. You saw it with Crawford and Madrimov. They automatically award the round to Crawford when there's not much that takes place. Same with Shakur, same with Tank, same with Canelo, same, you name it. They traditionally give the round to the favorite fighter or the more popular fighter when there's not much action that takes place. The fact that there were draws scored in the first round, that automatically weighed in the end result. But whatever. I'm not going to that's the way it was scored. That's fine. This is how I scored it. 115-113 for Fury. A 2-round swing. The end result was 116-112 across the board by all 3 judges, with a 4-round swing for Usyk. And then the AI 4th judge that they implemented now, which was just it was just on the side, just for viewers. That was a bigger margin. I think it was a 6 or 7 round margin that they saw, or 8-4. I think it's the way that they had it. So, big disparaging. I saw a lot closer of a fight. I saw a Fury that was landing very good body work, very good uppercuts, was working the jab really, really good in the first half of the fight. And Usyk that woke up in the second half of the fight and had a lot of success from the 6th round on, and I scored it as such. 6, 7, and 8, 3 rounds in a row for Usyk. He fought that way. He got back into the fight, crawled his way back into the fight because he knows how to close the deal and how to step it up, how to start fighting with urgency. Listens to Papachenko really, really good, and am very apt at applying the game plan. Tyson Fury started gassing out in the second half of the fight, found a second wind, and I scored it as such, giving him round 9 and 10 and 12 to Fury. Meanwhile, Usyk had already climbed back into the fight. So I saw a 2 rounds favorite for Fury. I saw the action. The left hand of Usyk again became a big player, a big factor in the second half of the fight. Other than that, he was getting countered. He was pressing on Tyson Fury, but Fury was very apt in the first half of the fight at countering perfectly, hitting the body, mixing up the body and head attack, and landing punches of his own, especially when he would lunge forward. Whenever Tyson Fury was taking the action to Usyk, he was finding success. Whenever he was on the back foot, which ended up happening more than it happened in the first half of the fight, from 6th round on, Tyson Fury found himself fighting on the back foot, retrieving from Alexander Usyk, which Usyk ended up finding a lot more success. And that's where Tyson Fury's detriment came. He's not able to counter accurately fighting on his back foot. But he was able to be very aware when he was pressing and walking Usyk down and pressing forward. He was very good at countering and evading Usyk's attack. Every so often, he would get caught with the left hand. There was a huge left hand that Usyk lands in the fourth round, midway through the round, that ends up damaging the eye of Tyson Fury. And that's where that big welt comes. Aside from a couple headbutts that may have grazed that side of his face, the right side of his face, the left hand was the difference maker in the midway through the fourth round. And he continued to land it with a lot of success in the second half of the fight. Usyk did. We look at the CompuBox, and the way that CompuBox read was that Fury overall threw 509 punches. Usyk threw 423. Approximately 86 punches difference there that CompuBox apparently, as per CompuBox, were basically hitting the air. Hit nothing. 86 punches. 179 accredited to Usyk. Of the 423 that he threw, to 144 of the 509 that Fury threw. 78 of those 179 landed to the body for Usyk. 45 of the 144 landed to the body for Fury. So again, Tyson Fury throws 86 more punches than Usyk. Usyk lands approximately 35 more punches than Tyson Fury. Majority of that difference were jabs. Usyk lands 6 more power punches than Fury overall. And that was the story of the night. A 42% landing percentage for Usyk and a 28.3% success rate for Tyson Fury. According to CompuBox, 86 of those punches were unregistered and hit nothing. This is one of those cases where you feel like your eyes see one thing, the eye doesn't lie, and I saw Tyson Fury win the fight. Again, I'm not a professional judge. This is a fan sports channel, and when people say you don't know shit about boxing and this, the old adage, we're fans. We're the ones that support the sport. We're the ones that pay for these events, that pay for the viewership, that pay for the pay-per-views, and we're the ones that end up growing these boxers into what they become. And that's what this channel is about, a discussion between fans, for the fans, by a fan. And when this happens, I feel like the eye test, I saw the fight going one way, and when the final decision, it took forever to render, when it's finally coming out, 116-112, I knew something was wrong because I never saw the fight being that far apart, even if it was for Fury. If Fury would have been awarded the fight, I felt that Fury did enough to win. I felt that Fury fought a completely different fight than the first. I felt that Fury started falling behind in the second half of the fight, that Usyk started finding his rhythm, and he did, and I scored it that way. Even then, in the end, overall, I saw Tyson Fury pull this out by a small margin, a 2-round margin. So when I heard the 4-round split, and then I'm watching the AI that they're announcing, that fourth judge that they implemented here, I knew something was going on. And this reminds me of Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano, both 1 and 2. Reminds me of many fights. Maybe even Jeff Horn and Manny Pacquiao, it reminds me of many fights. But I feel that the wrong person won. I feel that Tyson Fury deserved to have regained his titles back, or have taken the titles from Usyk, and if there would have been a trilogy, great. But I feel that it had nothing to do with that. It's just, as I saw the fight, Tyson Fury did enough, in my opinion, to have won these titles and lifted these titles from Alexander Usyk. It didn't play out that way. Frank Warren immediately started disputing, goes on a rant on every possible interview that you could find out there, ranting off about the judges. Tyson Fury expresses that the judges gave Alexander Usyk a Christmas gift by way of a decision. Alexander Usyk says, hey, I have no control over the judges, which he's right. And he says, well, I won, and that's all she wrote. And that's it. Fans were mixed, a lot of mixed emotions, a lot of mixed opinions, and a lot of people felt that Tyson Fury did enough to have pulled his victory out. Yet They're managed to justify the late onslaught of Usyk, or at least in the second half, how Usyk managed to get himself back in the fight and did do enough to win. We look at CompuBox. According to CompuBox, Alexander Usyk did enough to win. Outlanded. Did not outthrow, but outlanded successfully over Tyson Fury. So congratulations, Alexander Usyk. And again, I will reiterate from the beginning of the episode, Alexander Usyk is going to go down as one of the greatest heavyweights of our time. Just by way of what he's managed to accomplish. Very, very, very impressive. I don't know where they go. I don't know. Alexander Usyk, after the ring, Daniel Dubois steps in the ring, asks for the rematch, feels that he was wronged. We know how that played out, where Usyk gets hit with a body shot. Some claim that it was a low blow. It was ruled a low blow. He gets a crazy amount of time to recover. Daniel Dubois checked out mentally, ends up dropping to a knee and choosing not to continue. And Usyk comes away with the TKO victory. Everybody thought that Daniel Dubois had done enough to have dethroned the champion and had become champion. We know what he's been able to do since. He's gone on to defeat Filip Hrgović, which was a fight that everybody thought he was not the favorite to win. And then he goes on to stop Anthony Joshua in what was an exciting fight this year. He's putting on amazing fights. And he's going on to defend his IBF title against Joseph Parker. Should he be victorious over Joseph Parker, which is no easy task because we know the streak that Joseph Parker has been on himself. Should he be victorious, Daniel Dubois has asked for the rematch to run it back with Usyk and right that wrong. And Usyk obliged and mentioned to Turki Al-Sheikh out loud while he's on the mic, get me the fight with Daniel Dubois. That's possibly going to be the final fight of Usyk's career. I don't know what else he has to prove. Who else needs to step in the ring with him? That would probably be the final hurrah, and chances are that he's going to retire undefeated, having unified two divisions, cruiserweight and heavyweight. He's that good. So, again, congratulations, Alexander Usyk. He retains his titles, remains atop the heavyweight division, and everybody else is lining up for Tyson Fury. I don't know where he goes. There's big money fights. He's a big, attractive fighter and very marketable. I think they may revisit the Wembley showdown now that Anthony Joshua is coming off a loss. It doesn't have that same fervor, that same fire behind it that it did at one point. But it'll still be a very attractive, very marketable fight. And I guarantee you that will probably sell out. If not 3/4, they'll sell out the entire stadium. Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury would be a huge fight at Wembley if they still decide to make it. And this is probably the right time to make it. A massive payday for both should they decide to call it a day. Win or lose. But it would be a really fun fight and a really attractive fight and a really marketable fight for the fans. And I don't think there would be a loser if they do decide to make that fight. So, congrats. That's how I saw it. I want to hear from you guys to see how you guys saw it. Please leave me a comment, especially those of you following the podcast on YouTube now as the episodes pop up. Leave me a comment on there. Let's talk about this. I'll go ahead and reply as soon as I see your comment on there. And let's get into a friendly conversation. Yes, some people go like, oh, you don't know shit about boxing. Well, it's not about that. It's not about trying to one-up the other person. It's the why. Why did you see it? I feel like I could confidently sit next to anybody and score the fight next to the person and justify why I'm scoring the fight the way I'm scoring it. This is why I gave it to Tyson Fury. This is why I gave that round to Alexander Usyk. This is what I'm seeing, and be able to discuss it instead of just dismissing what the other person has to say. That defeats the whole purpose of a friendly discussion. there was a fight that was supposed to take place on this. Jumping onto the rest of the card, there was a fight that was supposed to take place on this event, and we were all looking forward to it, and it ends up falling apart. And that was Israel Madrimov against Serhii Bohachuk. Bohachuk ends up taking place or ends up staying with the card. Israel Madrimov reported down the line, I think 10 days or so apart. First, a couple weeks ago, they announced that Madrimov was going to be on a 2-fight streak fighting Bohachuk, staying the course, fighting Bohachuk, and then moving on to fight Vergil Ortiz in February. Huge fight for him. And then about a week ago, they end up announcing that Madrimov suffered an injury in camp and had to withdraw from this fight. Enter Ishmael Davis. A very good prospect, knocking on the door of contendership, who was going to challenge Serhii Bohachuk. And at that, when I say that, a prospect moving on to contendership, this was a final eliminator for Sebastian Fundora's WBC 154-pound title. Ishmael Davis had a huge opportunity here, climbing up, completely skipping the line, and looked really, really good, gave Serhii Bohachuk a really, really good fight. But in the end, the corner decides to stop the fight. Ishmael Davis cannot continue, and the fight is stopped in the 6th round. Bohachuk drops Davis in round 2, and where Davis ends up finding the second wind and fighting really, really good. But eventually, the power and the accuracy of Serhii Bohachuk just inflicted too much damage on Davis, and the corner did not want to let him answer the bell. And the fight comes to an end in the 6th round. Serhii Bohachuk goes on to become the mandatory for Sebastian Fundora. We know that Fundora still hasn't announced the fight. We know that Fundora was supposed to fight Errol Spence in December. Then it got moved to January, and that got broken up. The WBO does not want to sanction Errol Spence. The WBO is asking for Terence Crawford to step in, and that's where the influx is at, and Sebastian Fundora is left without a dance partner. Now we got Serhii Bohachuk, who's a mandatory. This is potentially going to be the most realistic fight to make while they figure out the Crawford-Spence issues. Sebastian Fundora's got to defend those titles, and this would be an amazing fight. We know what Bohachuk and Vergil Ortiz put out there. And for Madrimov to come out with an injury, I almost feel like, and if he did, then I have no reasons to doubt him. But this almost feels like it was a consult, like he was advised to withdraw from this fight and not risk that massive payday with Vergil Ortiz. That's going to be an even more attractive fight. This is a fighter that, remember, Madrimov lost a decision to Crawford. Bohachuk was in what should be the fight of the year, in my opinion, with Vergil Ortiz. And this was a very risky fight where he could potentially suffer a lot of damage and not be ready in 2 months' time to step into the ring with Vergil Ortiz. So to me, this seems more like he was advised to step out. They used an injury as an excuse, but he was advised to step out and prepare for Vergil Ortiz, which would be possibly the smarter thing, because this could potentially derail his career. The amount of damage that he would have suffered with Serhii Bohachuk and the type of fighter that Bohachuk is, he's going to inflict some damage on his opposition, which he did to Ishmael Davis. This could have been Madrimov. And then to continue preparing and go against a Vergil Ortiz, he would end up suffering more damage there. And this would potentially be a Madrimov that would be like a Provodnikov 2.0, where he would just suffer so much damage that he would have to call it a day and bring his career to an end earlier than planned. So it's a very smart choice to have pulled out of this fight. Sucks for the fans, but it's a smart choice for Madrimov, because we'll see him in a couple months' time against Vergil Ortiz. And you know that the Diaz brothers are going to prepare him very, very well. The other note, Serhii Bohachuk, coached by Manny Robles. Those of you that remember, if you guys remember, I interviewed Sebastian Fundora early November. You guys could check that out about his title and how the negotiations are dwindling down for him, and when he's expected to come back. So check that out on the YouTube channel. Also, Manny Robles, I caught up to him as he was fresh off his victory cornering Divino Espinosa out in Arizona. What a year for Manny Robles, finding success in the Combat League, finding success amidst his fighters, and what a way to close out the year for Manny Robles, where he ends up cementing a solid victory over Robeisy Ramirez with Divino Espinosa just a couple weeks back, and now with Serhiy Bohachuk winning a final eliminator and getting that ticket to a direct shot at Sebastian Fundora. What a year for Manny Robles. Congratulations, and he's doing amazing work. He's doing really good by his fighters. For Serhiy Bohachuk as well, what a way to bounce back. He looked amazing. What a bounce back for him from his big showdown that he had with Virgil Ortiz to looking near impeccable here with a very good pedigree boxer in Ishmael Davis. And a good power puncher at that, but Serhiy Bohachuk is so accurate and so efficient with his punching that he's able to sneak his punches in the smallest of crevices and inflict damage on his opponent, and that was the case. He's a headhunter. He walks forward. He doesn't care what the hell you look like. Ishmael Davis looked twice the size of Bohachuk. His arms were twice as big as Bohachuk's. His shoulders, his back. Bohachuk doesn't care. He's just going to continue walking you down and adding pressure and having success. And that's exactly how it played out. And Serhiy Bohachuk is now the mandatory to Sebastian Fundora. The other fighter that they made a big deal about that I had never heard about until this event was Moses Itauma. Moses Itauma is a 19-year-old heavyweight sensation who knocked out Dempsey McKean, an Australian fighter who had only one loss, and that was a decision loss to Filip Hrgovic. 22-1 record for Dempsey McKean stepping into the ring. And for Moses Itauma, the big notoriety that he has is that he's 19. He's a heavy puncher, very fast hands, fast footwork, and very heavy-handed at that. This 19-year-old teenager is the second coming of Mike Tyson as they made him sound and as they played him up to be. And then I see him step into the ring, and he looks every bit the part. Maybe not the second coming of Mike Tyson. They're saying that because of how young he is as a 19-year-old and what he's doing in the sport. This was a real test for him, and he stops Dempsey McKean in the first round, drops him the first time. Then the second time, Dempsey McKean was just folded like a pretzel on the ring, and the fight comes to an end. The first overhand left from Itauma looked like it landed in the back of the head of McKean. McKean never managed to recover. The second one was clean on the button and just puts his lights out, and that was all she wrote. Moses Itauma, now that I caught wind of him, I'm going to start following his career and see how he continues to progress. The hype is there, and I had never heard of him before, and it seems like everybody knew, the commentators all across the board knew that this kid, and they're listing him, or at least playing him up to be the second coming of Mike Tyson, and just how unorthodox but unorthodox he is in the way that he approaches these opponents. He's not your traditional slow-footed, flat-footed heavyweight boxer, but moves like a middleweight. And I was very, very impressed with what I saw. One round, of course, what we want to see is get more rounds under his belt and get him some higher level opposition. But this was a very, very good step up, and he made it look easy. And he says he's ready for all the top names. So how's he going to do with a Filip Hrgovic? How's he going to do with a Joseph Parker or a Big Bang Zhang? He's a small fighter, smaller in stature than most of the heavyweights. So those are the fighters that I would like to see him against. Joseph Parker getting a title shot against Daniel Dubois. We just saw Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk. This is the echelon of the division. Anthony Joshua coming off a loss. But the fighters that are climbing up, the Filip Hrgovic, who's coming off a loss as well, those fighters would be pretty much the toughest test. And a Big Bang Zhang, maybe a Dillian White, these are the fighters that are right there knocking on the door of maybe the B level, the second row of heavyweights before he gets to the top echelon of the division. How would he fare out against those? And that's the intrigue in the narrative. As far as we saw this past Saturday night, and as far as they played him up, Moses Itauma is every bit of what they're saying. He's now 11-0. And after knocking out Dempsey McKean, he now gets a 9th knockout under his record. His last fight was against Mariusz Wach, who's a veteran heavyweight fighter who used to compete at cruiserweight as well. 38-10 record for Mariusz Wach, and Moses Itauma gave him the 11th loss of his career. So I'm going to keep an eye on him. Very interesting card for the most part. Everything else was interesting and a fun card at that, but nothing of note. These were the main fights that caught my attention. Serhiy Bohachuk, Moses Itauma, now that I caught wind of who he is and how he fights. And then, of course, the main event. Congrats, Alexander Usyk, awarded the decision victory over Tyson Fury. And I like to hear how you scored it. I like to hear your final scores and whether you agree with how I scored it or disagree. And we'll continue pushing forward. Naoya Inoue no longer fighting to close out this calendar year, but we still have the big New Year's Eve fights that are bound to take place, and that's going to be Pumita Martinez. That's going to be heading to Japan, and of course we'll be covering those fights. And of course, don't forget, we got the big calendar. We started it last year, the 24 fights, dream fights for 2024. We're going to go ahead and put another episode together, so I'm starting to compile my list. I want to hear what you guys are putting together for 2025, and we're going to go on with 25 fights, dream fights for 2025. So keep an eye out for that episode, and let's see how accurate we are. You could go back and check out episode 185, which was the 24 fights for 2024, and see how many of those fights that I listed on there. See how many of those 24 fights came to fruition, and how it fared out with the dream fights that you had in mind for this calendar year. So that's going to be a fun episode, and it'll be coming up here within the next week or so. So this is just about a day prior to Christmas Eve as I record this, or as it will be released. So I want to wish you guys a happy holiday season, a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year's if I don't have another episode between now and then, which I anticipate I will. But between now and Christmas, I wish you guys a Merry Christmas. Be safe. Enjoy your families. Enjoy being around the loved ones, your friends. And thank you guys for all the love and the support, and for helping the channel grow as much as you did this year. Continue spreading the word. Those of you on YouTube, feel free to subscribe if you find it in your heart. Start following, start commenting, and let's grow this channel to be one of the major prominent channels out there if you like the content that I bring to you. And I'm going to continue doing my part and getting some interviews, and continue getting the show into the biggest events possible. And this is only going to happen because of you guys, and it's for you guys. So I'm going to continue getting in there in the backstages and in the press rows, and trying to sneak in interviews when I can, because of course we're a smaller channel, so we don't get all the access. But just the fact that these organizations have opened their doors to me, I've managed to sneak in and get interviews with as many fighters as I possibly can. So in a short time, or short turnaround time. So thank you guys. I'm going to continue making the trips and the efforts, and continue bringing you the absolute best content and coverage of the sport that we all love so much. And I owe it all to you guys. Thank you guys for all the success. You guys know there's no sponsors. There's no donations, because I don't even know how to set that stuff up. So this is just a true Road Warrior type show. And whenever I find a free minute to come over here, or free few minutes to come behind this end of the microphone, I do my best to bring you the best coverage. And I appreciate you on the other end of the speakers, whether it's me accompanying you on your drive, or your workout, your run, a walk, or just sitting at home, chilling, enjoying some good whiskey or a good beer, listening to the episode, and being enticed by the sport that we love so much. I appreciate you. Thank you guys. Have a happy holiday season, a Merry Christmas, and I wish you and your family all the success closing out this 2024 and moving on to a new calendar year. So I'll catch you guys all in the next episode. Thank you guys. Have a good night.